Welcome to Against the Odds. Everyone has a story. What's yours? Sharing your story can inspire and ultimately transform lives.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Against the Odds, a show where we believe that sharing information can be inspiring and can also be transforming. My name is Njiben Zama, and today we have a special guest, Mr. Kendrick Sterling. He was my son's fifth grade teacher at Mary Harley Austin Elementary School. He is also an author. He happened to have written this book, What Today's Parent Must Know About Today's Classroom. Now, I had the opportunity to read the book, and it's very insightful, and I think every parent should have this book. Now, let me turn on to my guest, Mr. Sterling. Good morning, and thank you for coming.
Morning. Nice. Thank you for having me.
Sure. So this is the way we're going to proceed. Is not a structured interview at all. I'm just going to ask you questions based on your answers.
Okay.
Get it from there. I think that's more conversational. I think that's a good way to go.
All right.
So, could you please tell me a little bit about yourself? Tell us about yourself, and then we're going to start from your upbringing.
Oh, wow.
Up to now.
All right. I am a native Houstonian, very proud Texan, born and raised in the historic Third Ward area of Houston. I'm very proud of that because of the history and because of the family atmosphere that I grew up with. Mm-hmm. I grew up in a neighborhood that was very supportive of me, although it wasn't always the safest neighborhood. We had a lot of people there who protected us and looked out for us. So my upbringing was a little rough. There was drugs, there was gangs, there was all of that. But through all of that, I had these amazing parents who showed me a way out. You know, these are the pitfalls that are awaiting you here. This is the path to avoid those pitfalls. And I thank my parents till this day for showing me how to avoid a lot of the things that my peers fell into.
What are those kinds of things? Because one of the reasons for doing this is to inspire others. So others who could have been, or are in the situation you were, could look at you, could listen to you, and say, "Okay, he went through this and made it. I can go through that and make it too."
Right.
So,
one of the things was they made sure we went to church. That wasn't an option, when I was a child.
Right.
Sunday was for church. So there was a foundation that I have of faith and believing that I can do things that where I thought other people lacked that faith in themselves. There was an understanding of family that you're a part of this tree, and you're either going to strengthen this tree or you're going to weaken this tree. So I always felt, even at a young age, that I wanted to be someone who was going to enhance my family and take them further. So when I saw some of the things that were happening to my peers, joining gangs, choosing drugs and alcohol over, life choices, things that they were inspired to do, it made it easy for me to say, you know what, that's not the route I want to go. I saw myself as a young man doing something that was positive and transformational. And I didn't know it was going to be teaching, but I knew that I wanted to be used in that manner. So I'm always thankful that my parents taught me those things. They gave me those values, and I apply them to my everyday life, and I'm still teaching children those values and how they can avoid a lot of those pitfalls today.
Okay. So how did you become a teacher? What drew you to teaching?
Well, I'm thankful for basketball, my first love. Basketball took me to HBU. I played for Sharpstown High School. And in that time, there was a tournament that we played across the street or up the street at Houston Baptist University. Well, the Rotary Club, the Sharpstown Rotary Club, held that tournament there every year. And the coach who was at the university would come around and watch some of the high school players. Well, apparently I impressed him to the point where he offered me a partial scholarship. So I never thought that, Houston Baptist was even an option, to be quite honestly. It's a private school. It was very expensive. And I had to really think about my source of where I started and what was available to me and how I could take that on to furthering my education. So I was thinking community college. I was thinking, something a little less expensive. But there was another plan. Through basketball, I was able to attend this amazing university. And in there, I found advisors who helped me figure out what my path would be. I didn't want to just, go the business route because this is what everyone on the team was doing. I wanted to find out my purpose and what I was here for. And I give Houston Baptist a lot of credit for helping me figure that out. And I remember the first class that I ever did. There was a 7th grade class, I believe. I fell in love with the students. I fell in love with the process. And I remember going home that day and going, you know what? This is something I could do. I may have found my passion in life. And I feel very blessed because there are people now still searching for that.
Absolutely.
They're living their entire lives and they haven't figured out, what am I here for? And to be able to know that at 19 or 20, it was frightening. It was scary. It was exciting. It was all of those things wrapped into one. But I dove in, and here I am 22 years later. I've been a teacher of the year 2 times. I've been honored to be a mentor teacher to help younger teachers. And I'm just constantly feeling blessed. Like, wow, how did this happen? I was in a place where a lot of my students were trying to figure it out. And then I trusted myself. I trusted the path that was put before me. And here I am now, so many years later, still celebrating, being a teacher in the classroom. And I love it. I'm excited about going back this year.
Yes, I know. I could see the excitement. The very first day I met you, it was at orientation.
Yes, meet the teacher.
Meet the teacher. And I could just feel, the excitement in the classroom, the way you conducted the tour. It was exciting. And my son he picked up on that. He picked up on that because he was happy, he was excited, and one of the reasons he was happy was that you were the first male teacher he had ever had, and he made a comment on that.
Yeah.
So let's delve into a little bit about you, profession and education. Why do you think that is?
That the response to a male educator?
Yeah.
Well, from what I understand, 85 to 90% of teachers in America are female. So imagine what it's like to get a different perspective, a different way of doing things, a different tone sometimes. And I think that many of our boys, unfortunately, are just missing that. It's great to have a child that comes with 2 healthy parents and a healthy relationship. That's ideal. That's not the world we live in today. So a lot of our young men are not seeing positive male role models in their lives. And I feel like I had a very important role to play in modeling for these young men the proper way to treat each other, the proper way to treat yourself, the proper way to behave, the proper way to dress at work. They're noticing all these things about me that are not being spoken, but you can see it in the way he's conducting himself. And I remember the men in my life who helped me as a young man, along with my father, to see, this is the way men behave. This is the way men are supposed to go about their work. This is the way men are supposed to care about themselves and their family and their community. And that's something that I want to portray to children.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, let's go to the book. Why did you have to write this book?
Oh man, if you've ever had a seed that's been planted in you, it will not let you sleep. I couldn't sleep until I wrote this book because I was seeing children who were excited about learning, having a great time, giving each other feedback, standing on the desk, moving around the classroom. And the following year, you see these same children, they seem to be void or drained of that excitement and energy.
That's the case of Shane and...
and Kevin, which
Shane
we
and
use
Kevin.
our air quotes here.
Okay.
But, not to put anyone's real name out there, but
Right.
yes, Shane's and Kevin's exist in all of our classrooms. There are children who may have come from a learning environment that wasn't so inspiring. They get inspired, they see all this greatness start to come out of themselves, and then they go into another environment where that greatness is not released. And I, as an educator, that tore my heart to pieces, because I know I've seen children who excelled in my classroom. They've gone into other situations, and I've seen them start to have discipline problems again. I've seen their grades starting to slip. Their engagement in class is not what it used to be. And my goal for writing this was like, how can I give all children and all parents the opportunity to know what an effective education looks like? What does an effective classroom looks like? What are the things that my child gets excited about in your classroom? And how can I ensure that that's going to happen in other classrooms once they leave your classroom?
So how is that going to happen? Because
Well, hopefully I can relate to the parents.
Okay.
Your child loves gallery walks. They love when I get them out of their seat and they get to go around and perform these math problems. They get to talk to their friends. If they need resources, they know where to go. I don't have to do, I'm a facilitator in the classroom. If you know that and you have that understanding as a parent, when you go in and meet the next teacher, now that teacher is going to hear that knowledge that you have. Hey, do you use gallery walks in your classroom? How much technology is my child going to be privy to as they're working and solving regularly in your classroom? I've heard that cooperative learning groups are powerful. And these are just questions that the teacher and the parent can have as a discussion.
Right.
As I know what works best for my child, I want to know if these things are going to continue. And if not, maybe we can find out why.
So that's assuming that the parents know about that.
Correct.
Now, the way I think that has to be translated to the parents, if the children bring that home and discuss it with the parents.
Yes.
On a bigger scale, I don't think that happens. Maybe 50%.
Yeah.
The children actually telling the parents what's going on and what's making them good.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, how is it that we can make that more widespread, more so that more parents can know about that, so as to advocate for their children as they move on?
I think it starts with things like this.
Okay.
This interview is going to help a lot. It's going to help a lot of parents who may be wondering, what do I do to build this partnership with my child's teacher? How do I understand what are those best practices that work for my child? And I agree with you. I'll ask parents all the time, talk to your child. What is about certain classrooms that they enjoy? And what is it about what's missing in those other classrooms that they don't enjoy? And that's a good place where I think we need to start. Well, if we know that our kids enjoy technology, why would we not use technology to help them learn? If we know that our kids enjoy games, we can put gaming in the classroom. I learned from 40-year veterans when I was an early teacher. And one of the things they taught me was the transition that they saw from learning through radio and having entertainment through radio. They were great listeners because everything they learned was through radio.
Right.
I started coming up with the age of television. They started putting film strips and TVs in the classroom. So now we're noticing that kids are not able to sit in long periods of time. We have movable desks. We have seats that rock. We're making the adjustments for children to learn the way that they learn best. The problem is it's not happening everywhere. It's only happening in certain communities, and certain populations of children are being left out of those best practices.
So, what are the takeaways from this book? We're not going to give everything away because we want parents to go out and buy it. But what are the most important things that parents should
If I
about
had to give parents a checklist and they were going to get ready for Meet the Teacher, I'm going to find out who this person is going to be with my child 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. I need to know you and what your expectations are for my child. First off, how do you build a relationship with my child? What does it mean for you to be a part of a learning family? Because this is what my child needs to grow. It can't be me versus you. We have to be a partnership. So I'm going to ask questions about that as a parent. Are the scholars in your classroom allowed to move, or will they be allowed of sitting down listening to you talk? I need to know your method
Approach
on a lot of your instruction. Are you using centers and stations? When my child has mastered something or not mastered something, will they have an opportunity to go over and continue working on something, or will they be left behind because they can't keep up? Kind of share your method on me about how you use centers and stations. Cooperative learning groups. Are your children allowed to come together and solve problems? Can they provide feedback to one another? Are they able to assess each other based on their level of mastery? Technology. How much technology is being used weekly, daily in your class? I know my child is a high interest person in technology. Is this something that you will use to fuel his engagement level? And finally, interactive notebooking. Wow, I cannot think, and I talk to parents about this all the time. What happens to those notebooks that you buy at the beginning of the school year? They've been filled with wonderful information that can be used for the following year. Are you using those as a bridge to connect that learning? So by fifth grade, sixth grade, you can have a library of social studies, science, English, language arts, writing, and math that now you set as a foundation to move you on to other levels. So what I call the 6 must are those 6 things: building relationships, movement, centers and stations, technology, cooperative learning groups, and interactive notebooking, and being able to connect that notebooking to what's coming up next in the following year.
Okay, so I've heard you say put a lot of emphasis on the parent. Now, how is it possible? Is there a way to, have more teachers in on the principles that you state in this book? Because, like you say, you have students who excel in your classroom, and then when they move on,
Unfortunately, I think that some educators know that it's nearly impossible for an administrator to police or micromanage every classroom. So they're hoping that their teachers are doing the best techniques and the best practice for their children. And they may do it when the principal comes to visit. But is it happening on a regular basis? Is it something that we can prove through evidence and data that this is happening all the time in this classroom? Versus I'm going to do what works best for me, and it may not be as exciting or engaging for the child, but it's going to help me as an educator get through the day. And we've moved from a teacher-centered classroom to a child-centered classroom. So it's not about me anymore. It's about what that child needs. And whether you're an auditory learner, kinesthetic learner, I need to touch and put my hands on things, or whether you're visual, I need to be able to hit all those different types of learners. Whether you're a below level learner, whether you're an on level learner, whether you're above level learner, I need to have activities prepared for you at each level. Or I can plan on having some discipline problems, some inattention, and some kids who are not very engaged in learning. And that's where I think the disconnect is happening. We don't truly understand as a parent-teacher partnership what the expectation and the role is of that teacher. We just know, hey, that teacher's supposed to do this. Hopefully my child's going to make some growth. But no, we need to know about data binders. You need to know that your child is responsible for the ownership of this learning. And they're keeping up with grades. And they're talking about the action steps. We've even gone so far as now to having student-led conferences, where I as the teacher will sit back and allow the student to take out their data binder and say, look, this is what I'm strong in. Mom, Dad, this is what I need help in. And Mr. Sterling has helped me identify this. Mr. Sterling has shown me the path to how to strengthen myself in these areas. Now we have a plan. Now there's a purpose. Every day I know what I'm coming to work on, instead of us kind of throwing darts in the wind and hoping that it sticks to something. We call it prescriptive learning. And it's very important that children understand that my learning objectives may be different from the person sitting next to me. And we're not just teaching everything to everyone. We're teaching kids individually on what their needs are based on what the assessments have told us that they need to work on.
So I still grapple with the idea of making this, become, so most of the teachers maybe not only in your school, but the whole district, and why not the whole country, that are familiar with the principles you put in this book, because I really think it's a great concept. I talked to my son about it, and he really enjoyed your class. So I think, is there any plan for you to take this, maybe on the road?
Well, like I tell everyone, the marketing part is the hardest. This is a giant that I did not see before me. I knew I wanted to have this published. I was not certain on my plan of getting it out to the world. But again, giving opportunities like you're giving me right now is my plan. Being able to talk on radio, being able to go on different blogs, talking to every parent that I come across, whether it's at the grocery store or I'm out with my parents at the park. If I see a child and someone asks me about teaching, and I'm going to share with them what I've learned and hopefully give them the opportunity to share that with the next person. And I believe through one makes two, through two makes four, four makes eight, and the word is going to continually spread because it's good news. It's what parents are looking for. How do I help my child in this classroom today? And part of the reason that I have the picture on the front of the book is because many parents imagine that the school that they attended is the school that their child still attends today.
Exactly.
And I need them to understand that there's so many changes today and there's so many things that children are excited about with learning that we need to know about those things and be able to apply them at home as well as in the school. So yeah, it's a big job, but I'm going to talk, one person at a time, one day at a time, one show at a time, and I'm going to let the universe do the rest.
I definitely appreciate you coming to tell us about your practices, your book, and I really hope that this gets spread as widely as possible, that many more parents know about this book and pick it up, because it would help you as it did help me understand what he was trying to do for my child. And I hope that, like I said, many parents pick it up, because I think the parent-teacher interaction is very important.
Vital.
It's very vital. Mm-hmm. Based on the stories I read about the students in this book he was talking about, I think it's imperative for every parent to be involved in the child's education.
Must be a partnership.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Sterling, it was a pleasure.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank
I
you very
appreciate your
much.
time.
Sure.
All right.
All right.